Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Deckin Around Community Corner. My name is Tyler,
I'm Steve.
and today we are joined by Jay. But before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And ring the bell.
So Jay, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, Tyler, Steve. Busy day, but glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, dude, thank you
Thanks.
for coming on. We're really excited to have you on. So
Yeah, that's for sure.
So for anyone who doesn't know Jay in the community, Jay is an avid card collector, having a collection pushing the bounds of 1,600 decks, which absolutely boggles my mind. I think that's amazing.
Just beat it. He just
Well,
topped
there you go.
1,600.
There you go. Cross the line over 1,600 then.
Oh, God.
So, I mean,
many people know him as card collector _300.
yep. So
I
check
think
out.
you need to change that 300 to 1,600 now.
There you go. Just keep it as a running tally. That would be
Yeah.
interesting.
That'd be cool.
Is it even possible to change your handle?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can change it as much as you want. There might be a 24-hour cooldown, but you can definitely change it. So
Jay's like the most like. Jay's like, how do you do that? How do you do that?
we can have a whole new sit down. We'll do an IG live with you later, Jay, where we can show you how to change your settings in Instagram.
Right.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so if you haven't checked out, Jay's profile, go check it out. Like Steve said, it is card collector _300, or maybe soon to be card collector _1600. But check it out. He has some beautiful pictures of all of his collection, as well as some other cool posts there. So Jay, how long have you been collecting cards?
He's like 3 days.
Probably not shock many people, but probably just over 2 years.
Nice.
Okay. So that's longer than I would have expected. Again, like I think it's
Really?
well, yeah, I think this is a hobby where like it's easy to just like start out slow and then all of a sudden just drop off the cliff. Like I know I started like 8 months ago and I've got over 400 decks. So
That's
like,
it? Only eight months? Dang.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. It's so easy to pick up so many decks at a shot, especially with so many resources like card shops or Kickstarter and all these places where you just have decks available to you all the time.
Right. I mean, nowadays, like so many people are just pushing out decks left and right. Just so many to choose from. It's getting difficult.
Absolutely. So, and I mean, I'm guessing throughout these 2 years, you've backed a lot of decks on Kickstarter then as well.
Yes, I think I'm around like 80, 90-ish.
Okay.
Around there.
And Jay, the crazy thing is Jay's #1 on all the backer lists. Like he gets #1 all the time.
Yeah, we might have to do a separate tutorial where, Jay, you explain to people how you managed to get #1. I wouldn't say give away all the secret because you don't want to start being #2, but it's an interesting
idea.
I've tried to go for #1 and only one time because I think I tried and I somehow got 16 and I was like, nope, this isn't for me.
Which one was it? Do you remember?
Here's the thing though. Tyler probably tried to get #1, but picking something that he wanted. Where the key is to just pick the very first one and then just go change your plan.
You know what it was? I actually did pick the very first one, but I didn't have my card saved in like Kickstarter and I had to go through the whole like Chrome thing and it slowed me down. And I wish I could remember what deck it was, but I know it was maybe like a couple months back. I'm sure I could find it somewhere. It's probably the lowest I've ever been on like the backer list. Normally I'm in the like 30 to 500 range, depending on which deck it is. So, but like for me, I sit there and I'm like, all right, like as long as I don't like miss out on a good early bird, I'm okay if I get it at hour 23, 59 minutes,
Yeah. I mean, just the fun of doing it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I won first, but it's just another thing.
Well, and I think it's interesting too because there are definitely campaigns that gear towards the people who are early backers. I mean, we see it every once in a while where someone throws out an ad card with the first 50 people to back or things like that.
Yep.
So there are little added perks occasionally to being #1 or #1 through 50. So
There'll be a nice dope perk for my Kickstarter, that's for sure, for the first person.
there you go. So that means I won't get it.
All right, Steve, I can look forward to that then.
Yeah, the first person on my campaign will definitely get something.
That's too funny. And I think, it's interesting to see how Kickstarter's evolved, not even evolved, but grown in the short period of time I've been collecting. How has Kickstarter changed since you started collecting 2 years ago?
God. I think the very first campaign that I actually saw, this was actually 2015-ish, was the first mint.
Okay.
And at that time I really liked the mint design, but was I like committed enough to actually like back like a brand new like a platform, something I wasn't even aware or sure that it, I get what I get what I backed. But then, so okay, that passes by. 2 years later, then I see Mint 2 coming out, and that one looked even better. So I was like, you know what, I'll take a chance this time. But back then there were still quite a few campaigns, but nowhere near like the amount there are now.
Yeah.
And it definitely back then it was definitely easier to pick and choose because there weren't that many designers or people just creating decks like every week.
Yeah.
So,
now they have designers or companies that are coming out with like 2 decks at a time.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't looked at Kickstarter yet today, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's another week with 10 plus, new campaigns on it. So,
how do you track that? I wanted to ask.
Oh, like when we do our Kickstarter recaps, I literally just sit there and I open Kickstarter and then I sort by newest and then I go back into the last deck that I remember we did on the last Kickstarter. So yeah, it's basically like, and sometimes too, like it's tough because we'll see a deck that like we don't remember because it was maybe not that memorable from the last time, and like Steve and I'll have a moment and be like, did we look at this one yet? And we'll be like, all right, like let's pause here for a minute. We'll leave a nice gap so we can cut it out and just be like, go check real quick. We don't want to talk about the same deck twice. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot easier when we had weeks where it was like, oh, there's 5 new decks this week. There's 7 new decks this week. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, we got 8 this week. This is going to be a long week. And now we have weeks that are 14 to 16. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And we don't even touch on tarot decks. I mean, if we touched on every non-board game deck of cards that came out, whether it was tarot or normal, we'd have probably 30 plus a week.
Oh my God. Cannot imagine.
There's a lot, man.
Even 7 or 8 is already more than enough for one sitting.
Yeah. I mean, if you really think about that, 7 or 8 a week, that's 36 or 32 plus a month. Like, it's crazy. That's a lot. That's a deck a day. Like,
And now what's like an average of closer to 15 now, right?
Oof. I wish we see a lot of them that really come out around that 20 mark, which is crazy.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Oh, the price wise?
Average campaign per week. Yeah, we see probably
10 to 14 probably.
10 to 14 is probably average. 16 is the high week. I think that's the highest we've seen so far, thankfully. But I'm sure at some point, as you get to some of the months where it's a little bit of a bigger push, so like September, October, where everyone's trying to get in under the holiday deadline, with the way it goes now, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple weeks with 20 decks.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
It really is crazy. And I mean, for someone who enjoys looking at Kickstarter and backing those decks, how often now are you finding that you're seeing more decks you don't care to back than you do?
I mean, there's so many I just don't give a crap about now. It's like, I mean, and like, I talk to you guys quite often about this. Like, I always say I need to become pickier. But I mean, that's a whole separate conversation. But like I guess my problem is my standards of looking at cards is quite a bit lower than most people, so it's fairly easy to get pleased or like kind of sucked into it. I mean, I guess the really plain ones are like plain, but even if I feel like it's even like there's like even like a little bit of like a decent like quality, I mean, as long as it's something that is interesting, I mean, I'll jump it.
All right.
For good reason or bad.
So with that in mind, what's like the one deck that you're really like, man, I wish I had backed this thing?
Oh, it's one deck. You know what? I can't recall right now. It's like
he's like, I'm glad I backed all of them. The crazy thing, here's the one thing about Jay. Jay has like crazy OCD, so he needs every deck in that set.
Yeah.
No matter what.
I do. It's
and
really
I mean
difficult.
Every deck. So like, let's take for instance the Nock series, and I'm a huge fan of Nock, as you know, everybody knows. But I don't have any of. I got rid of the EPCC ones because I I just don't like them. I don't think they handle well and everything. But there's like 4 versions. There's ones that don't have stamps on it. There's ones that do. Yep. It's the same deck. It's just a different addition to whether it's the top box or whatever.
Yeah.
Jay has to have the ones with the stamps, without the stamps. Every version, even though it's like the same deck.
Yeah, I think I was actually as I was reorganizing a little bit last night. Nox is one of the ones I came across. I think I'm up to 78 now. And with the new Nox coming out in a week or whenever it is, that'll put me to 80.
Crazy, man. And so that's another thing with the Kickstarter campaigns is because when a deck comes out, they might have 3 versions, 4 versions, and you can't just get one. You need to get all 4, right?
Yeah, most of the times.
Yeah.
It's insane. I don't know what I got myself into.
What got you into collecting, like in the beginning?
It's really the mint deck because I've been following Assad Chaudhry's deck, Chaudhry's YouTube channel for a couple of years.
Okay.
Right.
And I like this content where he's like does tutorials of Magic, shows off some decks. Yeah, and as I said earlier, like the first mint that was really the first deck that really piqued my interest in cards, but of course at that time it wasn't enough, and it really wasn't until the mint 2s that just really pushed me over the bar, and it's like, right. Yeah, I really want it, and ever since then I don't know why I just started like researching, looking into a crap ton of cards, just buying what I literally, even though they're average, I just started buying them, and here I am.
And then you have, you're not only a collector of like card decks, you have a huge collection of uncut sheets, which obviously we can see a few behind you.
Yep. Well, I don't know what's considered big. I probably have around 25 now.
Okay.
I mean, that's a big collection of uncut sheets, I think. I don't think many people have that many uncut sheets.
I have one with a second on the way, and that's probably the extent of my uncut collection of what it'll become. Actually, there's a third that I want, but I haven't gotten it yet, and that's the Animalis, the Culturae Animalis deck. So,
gotcha. That's actually one I'm not too familiar with.
So that's the reason I really like that one. It's by I'm blanking right now. Jack Brutus Penny. He's a English designer who lives in Japan, and it's all very Japanese styled, but the entire like deck is just built up with like triptychs. And so like when you see the uncut sheet, it's a whole kind of like storyline on the front. So it's really cool in that capacity. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out later, definitely.
Yeah. Uh-oh, you created a monster.
I mean, I'm fine with this. I mean, listen, if anyone's going to go get one, I know it's going to be Jay. So. Oh, man. But, I mean, there's some really cool uncut sheets out there, especially when you see designers who kind of take it to the next level and really try and make them unique in a way that goes beyond just like, oh, this is my card back. Like,
yeah, probably my favorite uncut's the Hollow Legal Tenders by far.
Nice. Yeah. Well, and that's a new acquisition as well. So
yes.
Yeah, I haven't I've seen the deck obviously, but I haven't seen the uncut in its like full capacity. So I can only imagine that with the right lighting and everything, it's really probably breathtaking.
You want me to go grab it? Because that's one that's not up on my walls.
Sure, why not? Yeah. Let's check it out.
1 second. Let's see. I have my remaining uncuts here. Stash. All right. I don't know how well this is gonna come out.
Come in closer. Turn it to the side. Now go to the side.
Side?
Yeah, like tilt it a little to the side.
Angle it.
Oh, like this?
Yeah.
All the way?
There you go. Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see. Turn it on the other side. Right. Yeah, you can't really tell.
On the front, you can see a little bit more the holographic aspect of it because there's that rainbowing throughout. But I have to say, that's pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it's a matter of time until I find space to put this little thing up. I definitely want up at some point.
Are there ever concerns that you're just going to start sleeping on cards at some point? Like, are you going to have to move your bed out so you have more room to store all of these cards? I know they're small, but 1,600, that's a lot of cards, man.
That's a lot.
I think I have about 41 boxes, like literally stacked.
Oh my
Crazy,
God.
crazy, man.
It's insane.
How's your a lot of people, we were actually talking about this not on camera, but what's your take on the amount that people charge for uncut sheets?
I mean, I can't justify it. I mean, because I don't understand how, to be honest, uncut sheets can be more expensive than the deck itself.
Yeah, they're not.
I mean, so here's the thing, though, and I think Steve and I have discussed this in the past. There's one factor about uncut sheets that's more expensive, and that's the shipping, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so,
yes, right.
But really, though, shipping on an uncut sheet within the continental U.S. is what, like $11 to $16, something like that?
Yeah, it's probably about it's safe to say $15 for shipping.
Okay, so you figure an uncut sheet costs $5. Like, that is
it's the cost of a deck. So if you buy 2,500 decks, the cost of that sheet is probably $3 tops.
Yeah. Well, so, and in certain situations when you request them to pull off, there's a minimum and a cost minimum. So sometimes, like, I know if you go through, who was I talking to recently about this? I was talking to someone recently about USPCC where they have a minimum number of uncuts you can pull. And I think it's 25. So if you request uncuts, you have to request 25 and it costs $5 each. So it does cost more.
Why do they even require minimum uncuts?
It doesn't
make any sense, and I don't really understand why around that. But this was discussion I had with someone who was designing a deck and decided to not do uncut sheets. And they said when they had reached out to USPCC, there was a minimum number, and they were $5 each. And there just wasn't enough interest from the community in the uncuts for them to justify getting 25, because ultimately there were like 4 people who were interested in them, and they were probably 2 of them are on this call right now. So it was one of those things where I was like, all right, but I thought it was interesting that the uncut cost them more than the deck because they said it was a flat $5 each. But so you figure with shipping, okay, 5 plus 20 plus 15 brings you to 20. Say you want to make a little bit of money on it, fine, $25. You've just made 100% profit on an uncut sheet. I don't understand where the capacity above that really comes from cost-wise.
I have no idea. It's kind of annoying, actually.
Yeah. So, and we do see campaigns where they come in at the $25 mark, too. So you know it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it's possible. It's just, well, I think what it comes down to is everybody's trying to make as much fucking money as they possibly can, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a bummer.
Just because you can charge that much money, they do.
Yeah. I think that part's a little unfortunate, but
yeah, it's unfortunate.
Absolutely agreed. I mean, I think, and especially because, I think a lot of times when you see these campaigns that are doing well and have uncuts, usually they're an interesting deck. Usually the campaign's doing well on its own. So ultimately, like, for you to get an uncut, like, you're not killing it for an uncut. You're not selling 100 uncut sheets. You're not selling, very few designers, if not one designer, is out there selling 100 uncut sheets, So ultimately, all you're doing is you're kind of like screwing over 15 people just for no good reason. So, and that's a bit of a bummer. Like, you're not, because ultimately, too, say you do charge $40, 15 people, you're not making a lot of money on it. If you would up the price of your deck by $1 for every backer, you would have made just as much money. So that's where it kills me. It's just not a logical decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's that answer of basically because I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they do look good. I'm not gonna lie, especially when you find a solid one. So what uncuts then do you have like in the pipeline that you're waiting on right now?
Probably the one I'm more excited about is the Rainbow Serpent.
Okay.
Nice.
Very cool.
And Jason actually told me that's one of a kind.
Oh, nice. All right.
That's cool.
Yeah. He was willing to get me one of that, so I'm pumped for that.
That's really cool.
That's Katamundi, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there must not be a limited Katamundi.
Yeah, well, no surprise
unless
there.
he printed them. But I don't think he printed them because that was actually, did that deck even print through Katamundi?
The Serpents were from Cardamundi, I believe, because he.
Yeah, but did the Rainbow? Because I don't think he printed 1,000 Rainbow. Did
No, he printed 200.
Yeah, so that's a small run.
Cardamundi doesn't have a minimum run though, right?
No.
Or they do it a lot lower.
So they supposedly have a minimum run now, but I think that's like a more recent development. Like within the past week, I've heard that they have a minimum now. Prior to that, though, I heard they did not have a minimum. I heard like much below $200 or 200 decks. It got very expensive. but I've heard of people doing 200 runs through Cardamundi.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you'll have to see how they handle. You'll be able to tell right away if they're, NPC from the time they printed. So I think at the time those were printed, NPC still wasn't putting out the quality it is now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have the orange ones, and that was a 250 run as well. And I think that was.
I think purple also was a limited run. I think because those were add-ons. It's the green and the whites that were, I think, unlimited. Or
yeah.
Right.
Was the wider, the more common one, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a good looking deck too. So what kind of just based on the discussion we've had so far, we've talked about something that's very much I'd say kind of like a fanning oriented deck with the Serpent, because it really does it's built around its fanning elements, and then the hollow legal tender. So do you really, and I think maybe you kind of said this where you need to be more picky, but I'm guessing you don't really have a style that you gravitate towards then with your cards.
I really don't. At this point, it's like, first, I guess my main priority, as Steve said earlier, does it have potential to kind of expand to like a set or a series?
Okay.
That's probably the number one thing I look at. And then after that, is the design all right? As long as they're not crap, I'll at least explore the idea.
Okay.
How many bicycle rider back decks do you have?
Yeah, like 55 ish.
It's 55 unique decks.
I mean, when I say unique, it's like it can be the exact same color, same run, but just a different edition. Like
different seal, things like that. Yeah.
One was 2015, others like 2019. I consider them separate decks.
Do they look exactly the same?
Otherwise, they look exactly the same. It's just at the bottom of the tuck, it says 2015 versus 2019.
I mean, you know what though? We laugh, but like Theory 11 purists do the same thing as well, where there's like, oh, well, you have the Black Arson 2018 seal, this seal, that seal, and like all it is like, or the Monarchs where it's like, oh, well, it's the same exact deck, but one of them has the old logo and one of them has the new logo.
Right.
So like, I can definitely understand that. Like,
and Theory 11 is actually one that I'm not that into. I don't know why.
Okay.
Which is so funny because their decks are so
I know. I mean, some are
yeah.
really good. Like, I never really got into like the whole Monarch thing. I only have like 5 or 6 Monarch decks.
I mean, that's pretty much all of them.
I never got into it, but I have 5 or 6.
No, but I don't have any of like those rare ones, like the gold, silver ones.
Yeah.
It's just I just have like the common ones, like the red, the newest red, blue, green, the Mandarin, and the purple. I think that's all I have.
Yeah, and that's one of those sets where it can get very pricey to try and track all of them down. So it's probably for the best that you haven't been like, oh, I need this entire set, because you look at like their list of all the print offs and everything. There's like a lot of decks that fall under Monarchs, and they probably tally up total to more than like, well, if you include that one, what was it, the restaurant one, which is ridiculously priced, you're probably looking at $2,000 to buy all the Monarchs. Yeah, because that deck alone, the only time I've ever seen it sell or available for sale was for like $900. So
oh my god,
so stupid.
I mean, there's some value behind it. I can understand where they're coming from with the $900, maybe not the $900, but being more expensive.
It costs $300 to eat at the restaurant.
Exactly. So you're looking at, you have to go get a reservation. There's a $300 minimum to eat at the restaurant. So the deck and you got a free deck of playing cards. If you're trying to recoup your dinner cost, $300 the starting point. But like $900 is a little crazy.
I mean, but with all those expensive decks, I mean, it's like you buy for like $20-$30. All of a sudden, it's like it hits 300 plus. It's like, what? I mean, what's there's no reasoning behind it.
No, it's all non-factual speculation for the most part. It's people want it and they believe that there's rarity to it, when in reality, like, there isn't that much rarity. If you really take a look at the community as a whole versus what we consider rare, like if you say, okay, yeah, there's only 5,000 decks or 5,000 copies of this deck in the world. Well, yeah, that sounds like a lot because the world's a big place and there's millions of people. But in reality, there's probably like 400 people who collect cards. So really, there's 10 decks for every person who collects cards. So not that rare.
Here's an open edition of the 11 Madison Park deck for $700.
Yeah, that's
I don't even know what that deck is.
that's
It's
the
literally
restaurant one.
a white monarch. It's the white silver monarch that has
Yeah.
like some food
Olives.
references on the card.
Yeah, there's like
Wow.
olives on the Joker and stuff like that. It's actually
Stupid.
one of my favorite looking monarchs. I think it looks the coolest because it's a little outside of the standard box, but like cool in a way that I'd spend $20 on it instead of 10. So
It literally looks like the silver monarchs.
that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, easy pass for me.
Yeah. I don't know. Speaking of easy pass, how come people say it's a hard pass? And like they'll see something that looks like trash and they'll be like, "Oh, that's a hard pass." Shouldn't it be an easy pass?
Well, so hard pass in the sense of like it's a firm no.
Yeah,
In that
I think
sense,
that's
yeah.
what it means.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Oh,
it's
really?
it's a hard pass in the sense of like you're firm in your position that you're passing on it.
It's like
yeah.
absolutely the deck's not worth going
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
But isn't that the same thing as saying that's an easy pass?
I mean, yeah.
yeah.
I think. I mean, there's similar.
So I'd say, yeah, like an easy pass is like, like you're brushing it off. The hard pass means that like you are resolute in your stance that there's nothing that's going to get you to buy that deck. You know, it's more, I think there's more emotion behind it, if anything. So
Really?
Yeah.
In my head, like when I see an easy pass, that means there's no possible way that I could buy that either because it's an easy pass. Something that's a hard pass for me is like I'm thinking about it and like it's a hard thing to pass, but I'm gonna pass. That's what a hard pass to me is. But an easy pass is something that's like, yeah, that's a trash deck.
I mean, either way, it's a pass. So there's a lot of yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of I don't want to say trash decks. We've seen a lot of decks.
Trash
Not
decks.
so
Yeah.
good decks. Let's
Yeah,
put it
that's-
that way.
Well,
I'll say it. We've seen a lot of trash decks.
There's been
I'll
a
be
lot of
honest.
decks that have potential, but just haven't reached that potential yet. So I mean,
And,
listen,
and there's been a lot of decks that don't have any potential, and they never.
yeah,
will.
we've seen a couple with no potential as well.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I think at the end of the day, the decks with literally zero potential are much less than the decks that have potential but really just haven't been thought out well enough. So that's at least a encouraging thing. Like you can tell when there's really a deck that just is like garbage because those are the ones where you'll usually see on the Kickstarter recap. Steve's like, nope. So like we didn't even start to scroll down the page and he's just like next. So
yeah, that's me.
yeah, but you know,
Steve.
I think from the art point of view, and I think that's really what playing cards are. They're art, and like from that point of view, there's always an ability to people are going to love some art. Like it's all subjective. So
Right.
yeah, but
Very true.
so the one thing you did mention too is that the mints got you into playing cards, which I think the interesting thing about the mints is they're really geared towards magicians. So do you kind of dabble in magic at all? Or
No, I wish, but I just can't get into it. It's like
Okay.
I try to learn a little bit of sleight of hand, and my hands start hurting, and like even with cardistry, like
dude.
I think I kind of messed up a little bit part of my left hand, like as I was learning cardistry.
Oh my god.
Really?
Yeah, like my left
It's all
middle
those
finger
giant
like
fans that you're doing.
kind of like buckles occasionally, so it's weird. But
What are you trying to do?
A giant fan.
Oh god, that is too funny. Well, all right, so purely a collector, and I think that's respectable. Steve has seen me try magic from time to time, and I adamantly admit that I'm not a magician at all. I'm a spectator with a fascination. That's about it. But
yeah, same.
no, and that's understandable. I think it's funny because I think a lot of people get into playing cards via magic, or get into magic because they're interested in playing cards. And at the end of the day, magicians use a lot of cards. So, I think it's from a collector's point of view, like there's definitely a niche of collectors only, I mean, there's people in the community who can't fan a deck of cards. Like they just, enjoy to look at it. And I'm not calling anybody out. There are a lot of people out there who cannot fan a deck of cards.
I'll call them out. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I think the funny thing about it is the ones who don't want to know how to fan and do it intentionally kudos to them because they're staying true to themselves. You know who you are in that case. But I think ultimately, yeah, like there's a lot of people in the collectors community who are, what people would call tuckists, who get a deck because they like the tuck. They'll never actually open the deck of cards. They'll stare at the outside of it and look at the tuck, and that's about it. How do you kind of?
Did you wait? Did you just make up tuckists?
No, it's a word. It's a word.
Who the
It's
fuck
my
made
first
that
time hearing
up?
it, but it kind of makes sense.
If you go to UC, if you go to United Cardists, like they will,
that
yeah,
makes sense.
they made up the word. I'm just
They make
using
up a
their
ton
word.
of words.
Yeah, I'm just
yeah.
using their word there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Tuckists?
Tyler, to your thing, like I open a good majority of my decks. It's mostly the rare one, like the one that are valuable in today's standards that I try to avoid opening.
Okay.
Just who knows, but I know I every deck like that I open, like I'll at least play with them for at least anywhere from 5 to maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then I just put it away.
Okay.
And then occasionally I just bring them back out if I don't get lazy enough to move my boxes around. That's the one biggest disadvantage I have. It's like if I want to reach down to decks that are like in the lower parts of the stack, like I have to like kind of constantly take them down and put it back up.
Dude, you know what you should do? I have a great idea for you. Take those freaking uncut sheets off your wall, right? And put up 100 cassette holders that you can put 100 decks in, and they're basically the same size as those. And then you can fit a bunch of decks on your wall that you want to.
My only negative side of actually displaying them out in the open is they get very dusty over time, and I don't want to kind of get stuck with cleaning dust every week or two.
All right,
bro. I'm gonna show you when I'm home next time. Obviously, I'm not home right now, but when I'm home, I'm gonna show you. I have 2 of them in my living room.
Yeah,
and
I saw it in a few of your streams.
They don't really get dusty that much, especially if you're taking decks off the wall. You're gonna have them there. You're gonna be able to, even if it's just fanning a deck or springing a deck for 20 minutes or whatever, and you put it back. They really don't get dusty,
Yeah, so maybe I guess in a couple of years, hopefully, like when I move to a bigger place, maybe I can actually buy like cabinets and stuff to actually display inside.
Yeah,
but
you can like step up your game like Bayou Matt has.
Oh man, looking at his displays, like he has a really awesome setup.
Yeah,
and I'm really glad for him because it's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. He's got some cool cases and stuff like that.
I think his wife helps him out with a lot of that, and they enjoy the kind of hunting for those things together, which is cool because they kind of bring the hobby to both of them and then build out these awesome displays. So
yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Jay, knowing that it's a pain to get to the boxes, do you know where all your decks are? Like, do you have a catalog system? Okay.
Yes, actually, you have an Excel that I record every single deck of where they are. It's for that reason, because it just quickly got out of hand. So I had at some point I just started making it.
Oh, I can't even imagine. That's like basically developing like the Dewey Decimal System for the library.
Oh, the Dewey Decimal System! I haven't heard that in forever.
That's funny. That's because you'll never use it.
No, I don't even know if they use it anymore with libraries. Libraries are slowly phasing out; they'll become electronic. But so for your decks though, like, how specific location wise do you get? Do you know like a deck is in box 40, or do you know like it's in the last row, deck 16?
No,
in
it's
box
literally
40?
I number all of my boxes, and so like when I record, like when I log it in my Excel, like I put a column for like what box it's in, and then like I try to log my decks in order of like within the deck itself, so I know where to exactly go.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, I mean, if you store up to 40 decks in a box, I mean, even that itself can be a struggle.
Yeah.
If you don't know where exactly it is.
Yeah. Can you show us your little setup you got going on?
It's not very ideal because I'm sort of kind of in the middle of cleaning, but How do I want to show this?
You can pick up a box and just show it in front of us and show us how you kind of
sure.
have them all sorted out.
All right.
Because you're actually in the process of, like you just said, like reorganizing them, right?
So here's one. I just kind of like stacked them up high.
So the cool thing is they fit perfectly in rows of 10 in that box.
Yeah, average is the row 10 per row.
Okay.
Occasionally,
cool.
the top boxes are bigger, a few like 1 or 2 less, but mostly it's 10 per row.
Like those bastards who don't do typical box sizes.
Dude, even like the Cardamundi like B9, if you do like enough B9 decks in a row, like they add up because they're thicker than most other decks.
Yeah.
The old
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is my Stockholm 17 collection, at least the first 3-ish rows. And my fourth row is just kind of with random decks. I just put as placeholders. I'm plugging more to replace them with.
Placeholders. Where are you going to put the Keymaster, dude? The Keymaster's not going to fit in there.
Actually, yeah, that's a good question. I haven't thought about it.
I totally just screwed up.
Yeah, I feel like you just broke Jay. Like
maybe you did.
I think the nice thing about the Keymaster, though, especially if you got the Ultimate, is it's a very visual deck, so you can kind of put it out to display if you really want it.
The Taro decks, like I kind of never had any plans to actually combine them with my standard setup, like these boxes. I was thinking just maybe have a standalone for those.
Dude, don't do it. Don't get involved with tarot decks too, man.
I'm not. I mean,
there's more tarot decks than there are decks of cards.
There's definitely like for every single week, there's probably consistently 15 plus tarot decks.
It's ridiculous.
Dang. And they churn them out. They churn them out like crazy. But and if if you're not picky about those, you're gonna be getting a lot of tarot decks.
But the problem with tarot decks is they're a lot more expensive, which is another turnoff.
Yeah,
because most tarot decks. Most tarot decks that you can buy off of Kickstarter are not that expensive.
I think that, like the really cool ones I've seen though, like there was a Dracula one a while ago that was awesome, but it was like $50 a deck, and the deck didn't even come with a tuck; it was like in a bag. And I'm like, I'm
think
good.
a lot of tarot
that's standard.
Kickstarter are so expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it what it comes down to is it's like a lot of the Kickstarter ones are basing it off the previous one, and they're getting more like in detail with they're gilding them. But I mean, even like Leslie collects tarot decks, my girlfriend, and she looks at these Kickstarter prices and she's like, F that. She gets decks on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, gilded ones for like $15-$20. So yeah.
And speaking of Amazon, I don't think I will ever get decks from Amazon again.
Yeah, that's like ding deck capital right there, because they throw one deck with that like terrible like air pouch bubble wrap in a box like this big.
Worst case, some of those boxes won't even have those air bubbles.
Oh my
God, literally 1 or 2 decks in like a fairly sized box, and like that's it.
Dude, yeah, it's a bummer because like you can actually find some deals on decks from Amazon. So like if you're looking for like green monarchs, you can get green monarchs off Amazon for like $6.50 shipped. And then but then like you're taking a risk though that it's beat up. So
and from Amazon's perspective, like they don't have time to make everything look so neat when they have like so many different orders to fulfill and stuff.
Yeah, but they also don't know that people are collecting them. They're a deck of cards. People think they play with them. They don't care.
Well, and like it's funny because there's actually some decks that I've only been able to find on Amazon, and that's like that one kills me. Like the Firefly deck, or like some of the albino dragon decks that they do, like the Princess
Are those
Bride.
not in Walgreens? The Firefly decks?
So I haven't been able to find them in my Walgreens. The only time I've ever seen them was on Amazon, and so I was like, all right.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, I picked up 2, and thankfully those came in perfect condition. But like a lot of those like albino dragon decks, like the Goonies deck and all those, like I haven't seen those other places. So
why would you buy this Goonies deck?
I like the Goonies, man. Yeah, I like the Goonies. That's a great movie.
I like the Goonies too, but I like the Goonies movie. I don't like the Goonies playing cards.
Well, I mean, it's got that nostalgia factor to it. I mean, I would pick up Princess. I mean, unless they were terrible, I'd have to check out the artwork first. But you know,
that's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones. Like I
Hey,
love Teenage Mutant Turtles. Like,
I love
I'm
those
all
decks.
about the turtles. I love the turtles, but I would never buy that trash deck.
See, part of the deck though, I think the trash aspect of it makes it that much better. So,
No,
and the
not
fact
for
that
me.
they're all old and they smell musty, it's amazing.
Nah,
It'd be great if one of those current designers, actually they decide to like redesign some of those those older things, like
Yeah,
I think
that we
Jackson,
grew up with.
I think Jackson should get the rights to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which he probably will.
Oh, that'd be sick.
And
Well,
he
so
would do a
'cause-
dope deck. Yeah.
So he had because we talked to him about that when we were on the 6 hour live. Because I know he has, and I think it's expiring soon. Was the license or the option to create a Transformers deck? And
Transformers?
yeah,
I haven't
He
heard
had the
that
license for that?
he either had Transformers or G.I. Joe.
It was G.I. Joe. It's not Transformers.
Oh yeah, so he has Mistborn as well, which actually, and I think Mistborn might be the one expiring. But he also had G.I. Joe at some point, I think.
It's G.I. Joe's expiring too. I'm sure he'll create. He has plenty of time to create it, so he'll create it. He's not going to let that expire without creating it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a Mistborn deck from him though, because that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's a great book series. Steve's like, I've never read that series. I don't care.
I mean, I haven't read it either.
It's actually a really good.
about.
It's a really good book series. So yeah,
What's it about?
It's like a fantasy book.
What's
like
about?
basically like it's a world where like you can be born with like these powers based on like different elements, and so like if you if you gain power from copper, you can like hold copper and it'll give you the power and blah, blah, whatever. And there's these certain people who can like, the more powers you have the ability to, collect, the stronger you are in society, things like that. And kind of like fighting fighting against like the main character, the protagonist is like fighting against the established societal like structure built around these powers. It's really interesting. So
I think Jay gets power from playing cards.
Yeah.
So he tries to get more, and he's like, I have my powers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the worst part is like I buy them. Like at first, when you first look at them, they look good, but like when you actually get it, sometimes they're like,
Yeah.
Like it's like, I mean, at that point, it's like there's no point in returning it or anything like that. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just keep them.
Yeah. Well, you know what's good? You can always like round up your decks that you could care less about, and you can always just sell them in like a brick or like a mixed brick or a collection, like a lot.
Yeah, I can do that. Or maybe
you can always put a bunch together and sell them to me, and I'll put them on the site.
Yeah. Or maybe if I'm feeling generous, maybe I can give it away occasionally. Like
you can do that too.
That's I've done maybe.
That's even cooler.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Who's your favorite designer?
My favorite designer is probably Stockholm 17 by far.
Lorenzo.
Yeah, Lorenzo does some beautiful work.
Yeah.
So like, do you pretty much, because he's your favorite, pick up every new series he comes out with then?
Well, I mean, he hasn't released a whole ton in the past year.
He's pretty good about it. I mean, we'll probably see that, like, what is it, Eye of the Ocean?
Eye of the Ocean. Oh my, it looks phenomenal.
That looks awesome. That looks so awesome. I really wish.
And because he posts some extra like materials in Patreon, when I look at them, oh man, I get floored.
I really wish, because you know how he did the. I'm also one like in his Patreon, because I think he does beautiful work. But you know how he was posting like you could go get like the beach towel he had, or like the poster and things like that.
The accessories, apparel stuff.
Yeah, I really wish he would do like a cloth or like rag tapestry of that map of the island, because I think it would be so
that would
cool.
be nice,
right?
Yeah.
Like I think that would be, even if it was like, I mean, that stuff probably isn't cheap when you get into like some sort of like knit cloth or anything like that, but that would be absolutely beautiful. And he really does do amazing work. He puts so much. I mean, I don't even know if you saw too, maybe a month ago or so, I think he posted a story or a post on his Instagram talking about, he's like, I took a break from playing cards, and he painted like like that casserole dish I don't even know what it was. It looked like a casserole dish, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like he's just a phenomenal artist all around.
He is. Yeah, it's cool. What's your favorite deck of his that you?
Definitely the Gatekeeper. I have to say. I mean, it's unfortunate and fortunate because like I started collecting like a little bit after the House of the Rising Spades campaign, so I missed out on the Gatekeeper. And even I guess
I missed out on that too.
around. Sorry?
I missed out on that too.
Yeah, and then like a few months later, after like all the backers got it, I think he put a few of them on site, but they were pretty expensive, and at the beginning of my journey, I couldn't justify it. But then I think it was like, was it a year ago or so? Like, I was able to luckily find someone selling a brick with the Gatekeeper included at a reasonable price. So I was happy. I'll take it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I got very lucky on that one.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think House of the Rising Spade is definitely my favorite Lorenzo deck as well.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah, I think it's cool, and the new one that's coming in is definitely similar to that.
Yeah,
that style.
I think the Eye of the Ocean may actually have potential to beat out the House of the Rising Spades.
I
don't know, man. Maybe if there's a foil edition, but the foil.
I think there will be foil. I think.
Yeah. I think he'd be missing out if he didn't foil that. I mean, it's built for it. It's such a beautiful deck. And I think that's one of the things you can see with him that you don't always see with all artists. He has progressively improved his style with each and every deck. He really builds on what he learns worked and what didn't work and what he liked and didn't like. He does a phenomenal job building upon what he learned. So I think just by that token alone, there's always going to be people who love House of the Rising Spade more. There's going to be people who love Eye of the Ocean more. But I think from an artistic point of view, Eye of the Ocean will be the next evolution from House of the Rising Spade because he's taking everything he's built upon and using it for that.
Yeah. If he's making the Eye of the Ocean this great, can't even imagine what his future decks are going to be like.
Yeah. I mean, I really hope he doesn't get bored with playing cards because he's definitely one of the top tier designers out there. There's there's a handful of people who, if they were like, oh, I'm never going to design a deck again, that would be a travesty. But he's up there for it. So and I guess, you mentioned earlier, you kind of try to avoid opening some of the more expensive decks you have. So what would you consider some of your top tier decks that you never plan on opening? I'm guessing Gatekeeper for sure. Yeah.
And people may hate me for saying this, but the original Cherry Casinos.
Okay.
And
people would hate you. I highly doubt people would hate you for saying that. and
also the Red Fontaine, just because I have one.
Okay.
Nice.
Like an original first printing of it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
I'm gonna have one. I'm gonna have one going up on the site soon.
The red one.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, who's gonna be the lucky person getting one?
I don't know. It's gonna be a dope price though. That's all I gotta say.
Nice.
Ooh, all right. To everyone who's going to watch this, keep an eye out for Steve's release.
Yeah, that will be a good one. That'll go quick.
Yeah. But even the ones that are not as expensive, like the gold monolith. I mean, I like the top box as it is. I don't feel you need to open that one. And Geo's design is something I've kind of recently started getting into, with the modern idols. What's that? The series Italia.
Oh yeah, the Divina Italia.
Yeah, yes, that one. Yes. And Apocalypse.
Yeah, Apocalypse looks awesome.
It's really good.
I'm really excited for that one. I think I like the dark vibe to it. I think in a sense that's very similar to Monolith as well. His style across all decks is very similar, but I think Monolith and the Apocalypse have a very similar vibe to them.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of his earlier decks, and I mean as of right now, I don't think I'm going to chase them. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to some of the
cost you a fortune because he has 7 million decks. He comes out with 3-4 decks per campaign.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I think if you go to his site and you look at the total collector's package, it's $1,080 or something like that. And that was the last time I looked at it, which means that he's probably added the Italia Divina to it, and the Apocalypse probably brings it up to at least $1,200-$1,300.
Except that package probably won't have like some of the rare, like the really rare ones in there.
So I think he does to some extent have some of like the really rare ones in there still.
Oh,
Maybe not
interesting.
all of them, but I know he has like a complete tier where he has like, I think it's every deck he's designed. I'm sure there's a limited quantity of them, and the price, like I said, is a little prohibitive for everyone. But yeah, I think he has all of like because to some extent, I think he keeps some of his own decks in reserve for situations like that.
Yeah, he definitely does for all his campaigns. He does that mega set or whatever it is. And,
yeah.
I think he's a super talented designer for sure. I think just price wise, aftermarket. If you get it on Kickstarter, golden. If you buy it aftermarket, like I think prices on these decks are ridiculous.
They go up so much. I mean, but
they
there's a lot
don't
of
even
different.
they retail for so much after on his site, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I mean, outside of like Giovanni, I mean, there's a lot of great artists like Lautrec, everyone's Holy Grail, Jackson. But I think another one of my favorites is Alex Chin, the Caesars.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah. His designs can be very intricate.
Yeah.
Like
he does great stuff. Like really good stuff.
And just a few days ago, he teased the sushi themed deck that he's been working on.
Yeah.
It may be a little different than what he's been doing, but hey, I'm looking forward to it.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like. It's definitely not a typical deck of his.
Yeah.
Which
I know I met up with Alex Chin last year because we live in kind of like the same same neighborhood. Well, not neighborhood, but like the same city.
Yeah.
Cool.
And back then he told me like one of his reasons was for doing the sushi deck is he kind of wanted to attract some like the newer people, like that may not really be into playing cards, and try to see if maybe he can bring some of them over.
Nice.
Like basically kind of introduce people to the world of playing cards without having to pay a premium price.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you see that attempt often now with like licensed content, and that's an easy way to bridge the gap there. But yeah, there's a hefty price tag usually associated with that.
Yeah, I mean,
it'll be interesting to see. There are a couple of sushi decks being in the works right now.
Yeah, I think there's 3.
Yeah,
I think 3. Yeah,
including Alex.
Yeah, there's another one out there that nobody knows about that's being done as well.
So 4.
Oh wow.
So theme for late 2020. It is 2020. Yeah, late 2020 is sushi. I've lost all track of time at this point. I'm like, wait, is it 2021? Have I lost my entire life here? So, but it's it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Maybe food themed decks carry into 2021, and we see a lot of interesting ones there.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool though. No lie, it's like something most people haven't done before. It's definitely going to be something new, and I'm just looking forward to see what people can do to evolve this whole food concept to make actually look delicious.
Did you jump on the deck idea, Jason's egg deck and ham and bread? And
I did.
He did a good job with that.
He did, definitely
style,
did.
For sure.
Yeah, and people are gonna like start building off of that. People are definitely gonna draw inspirations from Jason's campaign. Yeah, because he did a really good job.
Yeah, stuff looked real, and his renders were amazing too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what. I'm looking forward to actually getting them.
Yeah,
I just hope I won't be hungry enough to actually eat them.
Let's hope not. Well,
I'll have to talk to Stu about that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, hopefully, I can't imagine that'll go well, but ultimately, we know a bunch of people who eat cards, so.
Well, do you, since you just brought it up, do you want to sniff a deck?
Sniff a deck.
Yeah, for Stu.
Why not?
Sure.
Do you have a deck that you haven't opened yet that you're willing to open?
I have several. Yeah, I mean, I just had a large order from you, Steve. I can use one of those.
There you go.
Let's do it.
I mean, Jay, how many? While you're thinking about your deck too, how many packages on average of decks are you getting a week? Like, I feel like with the amount of Kickstarter and new decks you see that come out, you have to be getting packages regularly.
I know I get at least at this point I get at least one.
Okay.
Some weeks I think I've gotten as much as like 4, 5, 6. But
He
on
gets more
average,
than
it's
me in
usually
a
one or
damn
two.
store.
Yeah.
And usually, but I get very small packages though.
Yeah.
Like they're usually like anywhere from one or two decks mostly, and
Right.
occasionally like if like some of the big orders I get more. But
Okay.
yeah, on average, one to two packages, small ones, but
Right.
occasionally a little more.
Gotcha. What deck are you gonna open?
Yeah. I'll open this Beekeeper.
Nice.
Nice. Very nice. That's a good looking deck too.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, Will did a good job with that.
Yep, he did.
I'm not a fan of most of his decks because they're the transformational decks, and that's not my style. But this deck looks pretty cool.
I don't think I've actually ever sniffed a deck upon opening a deck.
Well, there's a first for everything, Jay.
All right, here goes.
Let's see it. Nice.
Interesting. I don't know what to think of it, to be honest.
Jay's high now.
Just smells like paper.
Yeah. Let's see what the back design looks like.
All right.
That's
Nice.
it. That's a
cool.
dope look. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really. Let me see if I can try to get closer.
Nice.
I like the look of that.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah. No, he did a really good job with that. It looks cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at these Jokers. I mean, they look a little cartoonish, but I like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't balance. What the heck?
Yeah, they
Yeah, I
got
like-
an interesting,
Yeah.
interesting like jester vibe to them. They definitely look good.
Yeah, which is weird for a beekeeper. I would have made it a beekeeper, but whatever. What do I know?
That would have made too much sense, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny, and I'm a real stickler for cohesiveness. You know, I'm a photographer, and when we create a project, it needs to be cohesive. It needs to make sense. You know, and I see so many decks that just don't make any sense with what they're adding to it, or you know, what I mean?
Definitely. There's so many of them. It's like it's really hard to make out what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And even sometimes when they even write like a detailed story out of it, like sometimes it doesn't even add up.
Well, and that's the thing about it. Like, and you know, Steve and I have discussed it all the time. Like, you do need a story, but it has to be the story has to make sense. Like, you need a story that actually brings people into the campaign and, you know, makes them interested or gets them involved. You can't just have a story for the sake of a story. Like,
I mean, but then here's a question on that note. But do you really need a story for every deck?
No.
So no. But I think here's the thing, though. I think a lot of times when it comes to the story, it doesn't necessarily have to be about the deck. It has to be about your journey to the creation. Because if you're not necessarily selling people on the theme behind the deck, you're selling them on your creation of the deck, and you're selling yourself. And so that's where the story can vary. The story can be, you know, I'm going to 15-second quick butcher story here, but like if it's a deck about bees, you could be like, you know, beekeepers have always fascinated me. I really, you know, love the fact that bees are such an integral part of society and you know, pollinating plants and keeping us alive. Because of that, I wanted to show my appreciation of bees, and so I created this deck. Cool. People who are going to like bees are going to be 100% about that. But what you've done with that story is everyone who doesn't care about bees isn't going to be, you know, motivated to back the campaign. Alternatively, if you sell the story about how you got to the point of wanting to create a deck of cards, and then why you in passing decided on bees because you thought they were cool, but really this was a journey about your artistic expression and how you created a deck and how you love that it's 52 individual, you know, pieces of art or whatever it is, that then makes the story more about you and you're selling yourself versus the deck. So like, I think it's the approach you take from that sales point of view. You can go either direction, but I don't want to say you can't have a story. It just doesn't have to be a crazy elaborate novel of a story. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be that much about the deck.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a story about the deck itself, like a journey. It could just be, like Tyler said, just something small on why a deck about bees. Like why bees, not tires of a car? why bees and not like a ladybug? Or do you know what I mean? Just say
makes
why
sense.
you came up with the idea of bees. Let me know a little bit about, make an effort.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Some people, like yourself, don't give a shit. You look at it and you're like, I like that deck. I'm gonna buy it.
Thanks. Thanks.
I'm gonna be the number one backer and nobody's gonna do anything about it.
I don't even like bees.
I don't even like bees. Bees can die for all I care. I'm gonna be number one backer.
Oh my god. That's too funny. But yeah, I mean, and I think that's where it comes into play. I think a lot of times what ends up happening is and I think this is why I say a lot that a story is important, is because if you don't have a story that you believe about the deck, whether it's your journey or because you love the theme, you don't really have a great motivation to create this deck, and it comes through in the deck itself. I think a prime example of that is we saw some campaigns not too long ago where the person was basically like, I've always wanted to create a deck of cards, so I did. Here's my deck. And then
$35.
Yeah, and then the campaign fails, and then next week they launch a new campaign with a new design, the same exact story, and I'm like, at this point, I just don't buy your story. Like, it's not exciting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think that's the thing. If you don't have the story yourself, you don't believe the motivation behind the deck, then how are you expecting anyone else to believe it? And that's where you do see a lot of people. Yeah, you see a lot of people are like, oh man, I realize I can get rich quick making a deck of cards. 100% false. But then they don't realize that, and they're like, I'm gonna go make a deck of cards about whatever it is because I see there's already 10 of them and they're crushing it out there. Let me go create another one of these decks, and no one wants it, and it flops terribly, and then they get discouraged. Where ultimately, hey, you could be a great artist. You just need your motivation to be the right thing. Playing cards is not where you get rich. Most people do not get rich making or selling playing cards.
Except a lot of people have that misconception.
Exactly, 100%, because they see the big numbers on the campaign. You go see a Jody Eckling campaign. It's pulling in $160,000 and 1,000 backers. He goes much higher than that. But ultimately, you pull in a significant amount of money there, and they're like, oh my god, not realizing cost. There's a significant cost to printing a ton of decks of cards, especially when they're highly detailed and all this stuff there. Yeah, he's probably making a good amount of money, but he's not going to turn around and buy a yacht.
Well, yeah.
If you have 5 campaigns like that, yeah, you can make a good amount of money. If you're, let's be honest, mint 2, how much did I make? 350, or mint 1, how much was it?
I don't know, but mint 2 was over 500 grand.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say mint 2, 500 grand. They had two main colors, cucumber and blueberry.
Mm-hmm. And then they released a couple more, but
the frost one and then the foil one, right?
Yep.
When you make 500 grand, let's say, obviously it doesn't, but maybe it did. It depends. I don't know how many they made of the deck. They're numbered though, right? Are they numbered?
I think only the foiled frost is numbered.
Okay, so let's just say, really generously, that whole series cost him $100 grand to make, which obviously it didn't cost that much. But let's say it cost $100 grand. Dude still made $400 grand.
Yeah, but you're not including shipping in that. You're not including the VIG that Kickstarter takes. You're not including the additional things that he did for backers. I'd say at best case, maybe he made 50% of it. But here's the thing. 400 grand once several years ago, you're not retiring on that.
No, I'm not saying you're retired, but if you're a dope designer.
So that's what we're saying. Very few people get rich doing playing cards. Rich being you make enough money that you're going to retire after doing playing cards. Unless he wants to come out with a deck every single year and make that, maybe in 10 years he retires. Cool.
Dude, Jackson Robinson is killing it.
Absolutely. That's one.
Yeah.
Name 10 more.
Well, name 10 more. I think Zach is killing it.
Okay.
He could kill it way more. Let's be honest.
Yep.
And creators of anyone.
Nah.
I don't even know who that is.
It's Noel Heat. Well, no, not Noel anymore. But it's who knows? 2.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah.
Douchey,
So, but
maybe,
here's what I'm saying though. The amount of people who create decks of cards and get rich off of it versus the amount of people who create decks of cards is significantly lower.
Of course.
But there's a misconception in the community that anyone can come in, create a deck of cards, and become a multimillionaire from this. It's just not reality. And that's I think that's the ultimate. Yeah, that's the ultimate point we're getting at. There are definitely people who get rich off of playing cards. Cool. Yeah. Power to them. I think that's phenomenal. They've found a market where they can, and they hustle for it without doubt. But they are definitely no. I mean, I think the people who have done this may not hustle now, but they hustled to get to where they are. Hands down, dude. 100%. I disagree 100%. There is no one in this business who's making 6 figures a year who isn't putting in at least 60 hours a week every single week. I
doubt that 100%.
Guarantee you're not right on
that.
I
have no idea.
Dude,
you think the creators of anyone put 60 hours a week into anything they do other than maybe play with cards?
I also don't think they make as much money as a lot of people think they make. So
no, I don't think they do either because they don't come out with decks that often. And when they do, they're 1,000.
They're not in my list of people crushing it, hands down. I think they're making enough to get by, but I don't think they're living a lavish life there. That being said,
do you think Zach puts 60 hours a week into
I guarantee you not into his decks, into his business. He is spending 60 plus hours a week guaranteed building the relationships that his business needs to thrive. No question about it. Absolutely no question about it. And it may be he's going out to dinner and eating and drinking with a bunch of people, but he's doing it in order to build those relationships.
But that's not busting ass. I don't agree with that.
Dude, that's 100% busting ass. Could you go do that right now?
Could I?
And do it successfully. Yeah, I mean, I'm just using you because you're in this conversation. But then could anyone go out? Exactly. He found an area where he's doing it, and it would still be work for you. You're not sitting there being like, again.
I'm not saying that he hasn't worked hard for where he is. Obviously, I'm not saying that.
Nah.
But do I think he puts 60 hours into his brand right now? No. He doesn't respond to anybody's fucking messages. He doesn't comment on anybody's Instagram comments unless they're famous. Like he doesn't.
But that's literally one facet of his brand. Though. Oh no, he's not responsive on social media. He literally is out there building. He's building decks of cards with some of the biggest hype companies out there right now. Like he's not doing nothing to get those relationships built out.
No, I didn't say that. I just don't think 60 hours is very.
60 hours is minimal on someone who is successful in a business.
I don't think he's putting 60 hours a week. That's just there's no way of knowing, obviously. Let's ask Zach, how many hours you putting in a week, and be honest, bro.
Dude, we can ask him. Maybe one day we'll have him on.
Zach, do you guys plan to have him on your Deckin Around channel at some point?
I mean, if he responds to a message, we'd absolutely love to have him too. Yeah.
I think. Listen, I think Zach, the way he does his business, the way he conducts his business, I don't agree with. I don't think he's. I think he does a very good job creating the brand. I think the Fontaine brand. I think he's very smart in that area. I think he's connecting with people. In the clothing industry. Like Rip and Dip, like stuff like that, like Babylon and Brain Dead, and he's collaborating with brands outside of cards, which is the way hype companies do. I definitely look at him more as a hype brand rather than geared towards cards in a way, even though that's mainly what he makes. But I think his model for creating hype around his brand is brilliant. I think the whole Fontaine Future thing was brilliant. I think just collaborating with these companies that are popular is good for the brand. So I definitely can't take that away from him. I think it'd be great to chat with him and talk to him. I think there's more to Zach that nobody knows about that's clear with his posts. You can see in his posts. I'd like to really talk to him as a human, not as the fucking dude who runs Fontaine Company. Because to be honest, I don't give a shit about running a fucking Fontaine Company. I think his brand, smart in his creation and where he's brought it. Obviously, the way it's run, different story. But I think finding out more about the human behind Zach would be really cool. I would definitely love to do that. And
and that definitely changed the whole. They may potentially change everyone's perception of how they view Zach.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, Zach's struggling with a lot of stuff, and just like everybody, he's a human, just like we all are, and we all struggle with our own things. And running a company is really difficult, and you cannot please everybody, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And there's certain directions that different brands want to take. You have Zach like Fontaine, and you have Chris Brown like Orbit, and their goals are totally different, 100% different.
Right. Yep.
Chris just wants everybody to own his cards, and he wants to be able to do that. Zach wants to be a hype brand. He wants to be exclusive, so he wants to create that like coolness, right?
Yeah.
And that's why he limits his decks to the way he limits them. That's the only reason to do it. Literally, as a brand, the only reason to do that is to create hype around your brand, so more people want it, more people want it, more people want it. And if you have it, it's going to be worth more money, meaning that it's a better brand. For instance, all these little companies do it in every facet, whether it's sneakers, whether it's clothing, whether it's jiu-jitsu uniforms, which is what I used to collect as well. There's all these hype brands in every single hobby that people do. And it is what it is, and their motives are different in every I guess community. You have people that do the same thing. There's no difference from Zach to Chris other than their personality and their vision in their company. Chris Brown is crushing it, selling 100,000 decks. Where, Zach obviously sells 100,000 decks too, but he also sold, 25 different colors? And one of them might have 1,000 decks. One of them might have 2,500. Where, Chris has eight versions, and only 7 of them put out yet. Where, he makes 20,000 for a deck.
So what's your favorite hype brand?
Hype brand? I don't really have a favorite hype brand. It's just I have some of them because just for the sake of having them, really. But I don't really have a favorite.
All right.
What's yours, Tyler?
I don't own any hype. Actually, that's not true. I own one hype brand deck right now, and it is the Aquaberry Fontaines that literally got delivered today. That's the only hype brand deck I own. I'll buy the Orbits though when they come out for sure.
Oh, I'm dying for those Orbits. I don't really consider Orbit as a hype brand though, because there is accessibility to everyone. At least in the later decks.
Still a hype brand, man.
Yeah, I still think there's hype. There's still hype behind it. I mean, you see some of the prices that they pull on their higher or their older decks in the aftermarket, and the drive to get those. I definitely think they're a hype brand. I just think they approach it in a different way.
Then I'll have to take back what I said, because that Orbit would by far be my favorite.
Dude, they make a fun deck.
Here's the cool thing. You have Fontaine, you have Orbit, you have Anyone, you have all these hype decks, right? They're all, well, maybe not now, but they're all printed on USPCC. They all have the same stock. They all feel the same exact way. They're all printed. And so it's like, actually, the only one that's really printed differently is Orbit. They're printed on the web press, and Fontaine isn't. So you're going to get a different feel with Orbit decks, period.
Yeah, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, that's a underappreciated truth of a lot of decks of cards is really there's a handful of stocks out there. Most cards feel the same when they're printed by the same companies. There may be slight variation, but most people are not astute enough to notice those differences, to be very honest. I mean, if I picked up 5 decks of B9 Slimline right now, I couldn't tell you the difference. They'd all feel exactly the same to me. And, maybe the only person who would know the difference is the guy who prints these decks all day long at Cardamundi. I don't know.
Yeah. But, and speaking of hype brands, are there any that you guys particularly don't like?
Hype brands?
Yeah. Specific ones?
It depends on what your definition of don't like is.
I mean, like you'd rather avoid those brands.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously don't support anyone. I don't think, everybody knows that, obviously. But I like Orbit. I like Chris's
Orbit's
business
great.
model. I like Chris's business model. I like him as a person, and I like what he created with Orbit. I think it's cool. You know, as for Fontaine, I don't think they're stupid, ugly decks. I think as a designer, they're done very well. You know, in the design side, the font is cool and all that. I just don't agree with the business practice of how they're put out. You know, but
Yeah.
I think the only hype brand that I don't like is probably anyone that I can think of.
Yeah, I don't really. I'm ambivalent to most of the hype brands. Like I said, I do enjoy Orbit more than most of them, but I don't really like have any strong feelings towards any of the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I know-
I'll give credit to anyone and say, as a design standpoint, like a hipster standpoint or hip, anyone has hip decks. They're hip for sure. They're not like breakthrough design.
Oh yeah.
You know, like graphic design wise, they're not artist breakthrough decks, but you know, graphic wise, they're, I guess, hip wise, they're hip.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked that is I think there's one brand that's kind of a little bit under the radar, and that's the Lotus in Hand. And it's like, especially when you see what they've done, especially in the past several months, kind of really makes me personally want to stay away from them.
So I'll give my 2 cents on that. It may be different than Steve's. In my opinion, they're not a hype brand. I think they are trying to be a hype brand, and they pulled the trigger too soon, and they're just not going to succeed at it. Like, they didn't have the following to try and do what they're doing. What they're trying to do is clearly turning people off, and they're going to keep pushing it, and it's going to continue to turn people off. Like, hype brands build following, and though they may have, you know, rarity to it, printing 17 decks is stupid. There's no if, and, or but about it. It's stupid. So what they're really doing is damaging their brand with the misconception that they're making their brand better. They very well, in, you know, a year or two, could have been under the hype brand umbrella, but at the pace that they're going, they're never going to make it there. They're not in that pavilion yet.
You ready for this, Tyler?
Sure, let's hear it.
I agree.
Okay.
Wow.
Here's the thing. I agree 100%. I think they're dope. I think you ready for. So I think Paperwave is one of the best brands that could be a hype brand.
They're growing. Oh my god.
Price wise, the design wise, everything about his decks are dope. His just awesome. And you heard it here. And Canvas cards are going to be a sick hype brand. You wait and see.
That's what I was going to say too.
Canvas cards. She's going to be the next hype brand. Her new deck coming out on September 1st is ridiculous.
Yep.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah. And on that note, I think, I think that's just where hype brands go. You know, there's so many different hype brands that I think have fallen off. Jaspis stuff has fallen off recently. And people, like Tyler said, if you jump the gun too quick, like it's gonna fall.
You need the established fan base there who's willing to go through the ringer to get your decks. And I think a lot of these brands, again, don't have the wrong motivation. They're trying to get there too quick. It's a long game. To be a successful hype brand is a long game. Probably much more so. Or luck. Yeah, and I think at this point though, luck was to be lucky in the hype brand card game without the following now, you would have had to do it 7-8 years ago. Like 2011, 12, 13, 14, that's when you got lucky as a brand because there was no competition. Now you have established competition. To actually be lucky now, you would have to come out with just the most amazing deck that anyone's ever seen. And you'd have to consistently do that for multiple decks before you'd even really be a hype brand. Because a lot of these wannabe hype brands are one-hit wonders. You know, they roll out with a deck, it's amazing, they have a lot of potential, person vanishes. And you're just like, all right, well, that's great. Never going to see them again. Or ultimately, you know, it's about consistency. Building a brand for hype purposes, you have to be constantly on people's mind.
Or to create hype, or to become hype quicker than your standard, is you got to be known in the community. Who runs Lotus? Who runs Lotus in Hand?
I don't know.
I mean, we're probably not the best people to ask, let's be honest. But
Yeah.
Zach had a following in the community of cardistry. People knew who Zach was. And when he came out with his Kickstarter campaign for his first deck, he had a little bit of a backing and whatever. He got lucky, let's be honest. And that's just how it happens, you know. But if you're well known in the community and you come out with a deck, then it's going to become more popular. That's why anyone's popular, is because you have 3 guys that are dope at cardistry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, Lotus in Hand is Curtis Lin, Daniel Lin, and Harry Kuo.
Yeah, and I'm not in the cardistry community, so I really don't know. I've heard of, obviously, Curtis.
I mean, they've got a solid following on their Instagram, but like they also take the position of, hey, we have 10,000 followers, and we're going to follow 3 people. Like that's the ultimate way to show that you're just not involved. And I think we've had that discussion with a lot of people in the past, where ultimately, if you want to be a hype brand, there is a necessity, especially early on, to engage. You know, it's not like not engaging doesn't make you look cool. It frustrates customers who right now aren't so tied to your brand that they want to be frustrated. So, yeah, but
agreed. On that note, Jay, you're awesome.
And we can't wait to see all of the cards that you're gonna have in another 2 years.
Oh, jeez.
You need to find a bigger place to live, because with 3,200 decks, I'm sure in 2 years, is your pace, this will be my last question for you, is your pace of collection escalating? Like, are you continuously buying more decks, or do you find it dropping or leveling out?
I think it really depends on the season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I'll have my moments of going down, but at the same time, there's always those times where I build up. So it's like,
all right.
But I'm really trying to slow down, in all honesty, and I'm really hoping, you know.
You just need.
I don't want to end up with 3,200 decks.
You just need to get more picky, man. Yeah, especially because you know what? To get the Guinness Book of World Records now, I think it's something like 1,150 decks. So you got a long way to go there.
No.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, 11,000. Yeah, 500. Sorry, yeah, not 1,150.
Yeah, it's 11,000, but no.
Yeah, 11,000. I think it's like
amount. Absolutely not.
Never say never.
Oh God.
You'll need a bigger house though first if you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
But Jay, honestly though, we appreciate having you on, man. We appreciate your activity within the community, everything you kind of bring to it. If anyone is not following Jay or hasn't checked him out yet, go check out his Instagram, cardcollector_300. He has amazing decks, is an awesome person to talk to. And if you're ever curious about a deck of cards, Jay probably has it and can give you answers there. You know?
I hope I do.
If not, maybe you'll convince him to buy a new deck of cards. So.
Oh, Lord. So anyways, Tyler, Steve, it was a joy. It was a pleasure having been on here. Just thank you for giving me this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thank you. And everyone, thank you for tuning in, checking out this episode of Deckin Around Community Corner. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We do these once a month, the first Wednesday of every month.
Ring the channel. Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. But also make sure to, if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like to see on the next episode of Community Corner, or even who you'd like to see in the future on Deckin Around, make sure to leave it in the comments below. We always check that. We always take it into consideration, and we try our best to get people on the show. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy your afternoon or evening.